Hey everybody, today we're talking with Dave Kovar about stopping bullies at school and at home. If you haven't yet, please do hit the subscribe button and the like button below, share us with your friends, check us out on Facebook or Patreon. These things help out more than you know. Let's get on with it. Hello again, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Safest Family on the Block, where knowledge is power. I'm your host, Jason, and joining me today is the legendary Dave Kovar. Hello, sir.
Hey, good to see you. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you so much for coming. Now, Dave began his martial arts journey in 1971 when he joined his school's wrestling team, and he's still kicking, punching, and changing lives 49 years later. This half century took him from running a small school in California to performing for President Bush at an official dinner, to running a local TV show, to consulting and teaching for over 500 colleges and businesses in 9 different countries. But what brings him here today is his program, Done with Bullying, which he founded in 2013 and is currently taught in 1,500 locations throughout the world. I know that a lot of our parents are worried about bullying, about how bullying has changed and how bullying has stayed the same, and about that helpless anger that we often feel when our kid comes home having experienced bullying. There's something really visceral that hits us, and we want to go handle it the way that maybe in the 50s and 60s we were told to handle it. But of course, that's inappropriate even for our kids, let alone us. So I thought we'd bring in an expert on bullying and on being done with bullying to talk to us a bit about it. So thank you again, Dave, for coming on. And I think my first question is, there's a concept of bullying we have as parents from our own time in school, from what our parents taught us, and that is a fundamentally different thing than what is going on in schools today, between the internet making it unrelenting, between zero tolerance policies at the school, changing the way that we can react. So what are the biggest misconceptions you've encountered that parents hold about bullying that we should learn something better about?
Well, it's interesting that you say that because, kind of back in the day, it was, hey, suck it up, kid, go punch him in the nose, you're okay, right? And which probably wasn't the best advice. Although there was a time, as you know, like we also know that kid that finally stood up to the bully, that the bully quit picking on him after he stood up. And there is something to be said about standing up for yourself, and we can talk more about that. The issue is that most parents, they love their kids. We love our kids. But most people don't really, they've never really spent the time to really research what is the best thing to teach your children, right? Maybe they don't know themselves. And so that's kind of the premise with our Done with Bullying program is that how can we educate parents and children in realistic things that it can actually in a language that a child can understand. Because a lot of times if you when I was researching, and by the way, we've been doing like anti-bullying stuff since the late 70s, right? And we started a program that's called School Safe, Street Safe in the 90s that evolved into Done with Bullying. But is that if you look online and you go, what my child's being bullied, it's a bunch of kind of textbook things to do. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't really, it's not, there's not a lot of stuff that 8-year-old can really go to apply, right? What they can do. And so because of our experience in teaching martial arts to thousands and thousands of kids over the last 40 years, where we've had a chance to interact firsthand, we kind of know how to talk to kids first and foremost. And then through education, such as books as The Gift of Fear and Protecting the Gift by Gavin DeBecker, and a book called Strong Against Crime by Sanford Strong, and a whole bunch of other people that are out there that have done a lot of cutting edge research. We've kind of been able to, and then what we know about working with children, put together a program that's actually gives some kids some real life strategies to work with. And so now the intention is most well-intended parents, like we were talking about before, we push the record button, that is how many parents tell their kids don't talk to strangers because that's all they know, right? That's what they heard. But how bad that information really is, because who's a stranger? Stranger is anybody you don't know. That's a stranger. And let's say example, I'm at the grocery store with my daughter and she's 6 years old, and I've been telling her don't talk to strangers, don't talk to strangers. And all of a sudden some guy walks up while I'm in line with her and says, hey, that sure is a nice dress, or that sure is a nice doll you have, what's its name? And then I elbow her and I say, well, answer him. And so she answers, so she's confused, right? So the whole talk with it's really situational. There's not one thing you say, whether it be a really young child trying to prepare them for the real world, or at any age in the process. It's a dialogue that never stops. It's not a one thing, now the principles are the same regardless of the aim, the age, like, because a predator, there's predator and there's prey, and it doesn't matter if it's on the kindergarten playground or if it's at the bar on Saturday night, right? There's someone that a predator is looking for someone they can get over on. Okay, and let's say in nature, the lion doesn't go, let me find the biggest, meanest, strongest animal in the jungle, let me attack them. No, they're looking, like right now, if your life was dependent on you defending yourself and getting in a fight against somebody, you're not going to go, let me find the biggest, strongest guy. You're going to find someone you think you can win, right? And so the first thing that I think is important is to teach our children is how to project confidence, right? And that's kind of a starting point. And so I don't know if we want to kind of, if I can start by just giving you some basic principles that we teach, does that work?
Fantastic. Is that
right.
idea of projecting confidence, as you say, and that's true for adult self-defense too.
100%.
That the best way to not be a victim is to not look like a victim.
Yes.
Because it's interesting that bullies, just like adult predators, they're good at what they do.
Yes.
They're jerks, but they're good at it. They will pick the person they think they can humiliate.
Absolutely.
And if you don't look like somebody who can be humiliated, if we teach our kids that, then they'll be less likely to have to deal with it. So you said there were some specific principles to observe?
Yeah. Well, they took a bunch of convicted felons from a New York State penitentiary. I read this years ago, and I've been trying to find it again to be able to cite the study, and I can't. It's out there somewhere, and if you find it, let me know. But it's where what they did is they had these guys these convicted felons watch a videotape of people walking up and down the street in New York City, and they said, all right, you're the predator, choose the prey. And ironically, these guys would pick almost the same people, and they weren't little old ladies, right? They were people of both genders, across the board as far as age goes. And what it was, there was two things that a predator was looking for: is someone that wasn't paying attention and someone didn't look very confident. Okay. Mm-hmm. And so kind of what we try to do with our kids, and by the way, a lot of this, it doesn't matter the age, right? The actual talking points might be different. The principles are universal. Is the number one rule is to create safe habits. Like, for example, like the world, yes, they're scary it's a scary place, right? But the reality is it's always been a scary place, right? And the issue now with kids is that with the internet, that's changed everything. That's brought bullying to another level, right? But nevertheless, there's always, bullying's always been here. And of course, our program is done with bullying. That would be my goal. Realistically, we may not get there in our lifetime, but we can hopefully put a dent in it, right? But the first day is just in general is to have people analyze their day from dawn to dusk, and where are they the most exposed? Where, like, for example, it's common sense stuff, but we teach everybody to wear a seatbelt, right? Now, is that because we're paranoid about getting in a car accident, or is it just a safe habit we've developed? It's just a safe habit we've developed, right? And so that's kind of the first step, all right? And then the second step is to be aware but not on guard, and that is to teach our kids just to pay attention to what's going on around, right? Now, how many times have you? And by the way, I've been guilty of this as well. Seeing people walking on the street on their phone or something else, not paying attention to anything else around them, right? By the way, ironically, I was at the airport hopping on a plane a few months back, and I got on the plane and I was looking down the aisle, and I was shamefully looking at everyone had their phone in their hand, and I was going, oh, those guys. And I sit down, and what do I do unconsciously? Pull my phone out and do the same thing. It's like we're all guilty of it. So be aware but not on guard is bottom line is just making sure that you're able to see what's going on around you. Mm-hmm. And the third step, this is really important for people of all ages, is to trust your intuition. Teach people that their instincts are always right. As Gavin DeBecker says, someone's instincts are always right in two areas. Number one, they have your best interest in mind, and they're responding to some stimuli. That means if you think this is a bad guy, it doesn't mean he's a bad guy, but something about that is a trigger, and we need to pay attention to it. Mm-hmm. So, for example, about a year ago, I was in the UK. I was doing a seminar, and I was staying at this this hotel that had a pub in the lobby. And in the UK, the soccer, or they call football, is completely different in that if you are like a Liverpool guy, you do not like Manchester United, to the point to where, you know, a fight's going to break out. Maybe you're not like in America, where if you like the Vikings and I like the Raiders, we can still talk and joke about it, right? But anyway, so I'm getting ready. The game just got over, and there's a bunch of guys hopping on an elevator, and they've all got a logo from their team, and I didn't even know who was playing, and I nod at one of the guys, and he looks at me and he says something to his friend, and they kind of snicker, and they all start getting on the elevator, and I'm thinking, I'm going to get in. I'm not. What the heck, man? You know, I'm going to get in the elevator with them. I'm not afraid of these guys. And then it hit me, you know, like what the, you know, in nature, what animal gets into a soundproof steel cage with a predator, right? Potential predator. Like, what do? Okay. Yeah. I have to check the fact that maybe I could defend myself, but it's not worth it. You know, in other words, I'm going to get on the next elevator. So trust your intuition. Right? That's the next.
And I feel like that's very important as parents to remember, because we spend a lot of our time, unfortunately, telling our kids to not trust their intuition.
Yeah.
That we overrule them, that we don't listen because we're in a hurry, because we think that their concerns are silly. And often it is a little, you know, it's not a realistic fear, but it's something the kids latched onto. But communicating with them that if you've got a bad feeling, I'll get down one on me and we'll talk about it and we'll solve it. And overcoming that parental veto instinct that we have.
Yeah,
that's a very good insight.
It's a great point. And one of the things, a lot of times our kids get this. I don't know about you, but I want my kids to be fearless. I don't want them to be reckless, but I want them to be fearless, right? Meaning not afraid to try new stuff. And a lot of times what happens is parents will project their fear onto their kids, right? And so kids will pick up on it. Like, I don't think any kid under 4 or 5 years old should ever have to think about anything when it comes to this. You know, in other words, but as they venture into school now, we need to educate them on the fact that, okay, here's some precautions you need to take, etc. Okay. And that's why, of course, you know, my day job is I teach martial arts, and primarily to kids, and why I'm so sold on it. And I know I don't have to sell it on you. You get it, is because, you know, naturally. So here's the way I look at it. Predators have like antennas sticking out. They're looking for prey. It's like they have a radio frequency tuned in. Boop, 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 boop. And a prey's over here. You know, if they have a signal that says, I'm not sure of myself, I'm very weak, please don't pick on me, boop, there's a match, right? However, if we teach our kids to stand tall and look people in the eye and walk confidently, then what happens is they're projecting a completely different signal, and you know, they're way less likely to be confronted in the first place. Of course, it doesn't guarantee they're not gonna be, but it stacks the odds in favor. That's not enough, right? But it's a really good start. And then done with bullying, we talk about all this stuff, but then also we kind of discuss strategies if you are being confronted. And what we kind of do is we break it down into 4 categories. Done with Bullying is broken down in 4. First off is, you know, someone's doing the bullying, and if all we do is talk about what to do if you're being bullied, we're not really answering the bigger question: who are the kids that are doing the bullying, right? And so it's one of them is why you wouldn't want to be a bully. That's one of the phases that we'll discuss in detail. What to do if you're being bullied, okay? What to do if you see someone else being bullied, and a concept we call buddying, which is just the opposite of it, right? And so that's where we kind of put the emphasis on, so it's a well-rounded, you know, so it hits all the angles. Like, for example, you know, why you shouldn't be a bully, right? I mean, it's easy to say don't bully people, but what's interesting to know is that bullies are broken down primarily into 2 areas, okay? One is what's called a victim bully. The other is what's called a pure bully. Now, the bottom line, a pure bully, I believe it's like 7% of the bullies are pure bullies. And what that means is they could come from great families. They could be popular, smart. It doesn't matter. They just like to bully. They're the people that grow up to be sociopaths, basically, okay? And there's things you can do with them. However, as far as how you combat that, right? But most bullies are what's referred to as a victim bully. And what they're doing, this is something you know, of course, is they're lashing out because life is hard for them in some capacity. They're having a hard time at home. You know, they're being bullied themselves. Who knows the reason? And so what it is that they're trying to make them feel better by making other people feel less. So bullying is really, what makes something bullying is it's an imbalance of power, right? I'm using my social power, maybe my physical power, maybe my intellectual power to dominate over somebody else, right? And really what makes something bullying is it has to be intentional and it has to be repetitive. Okay, like, so what we'll do is we'll talk about this in the classroom, and then we'll have two kids and we'll, that's my ball. No, that's my ball. And we'll imagine they're fighting over a ball. And we'll say, is this bullying? No, that's two kids getting an argument. That stuff happens. It shouldn't, but it does happen. So what is bullying? It's when someone is intentionally trying to misuse their power. Okay. And it's got to be intentional and repetitive. And so it's really helpful because other times it gets mislabeled sometimes. And, people are going to disagree. And I don't want to make light of it, but every now and then kids, not just kids, but grown-ups can be heartless too. That's going to happen. Yeah. But so that's the first part and then what we'll do was identify bullying, and we'll talk about, and it's really more of a discussion. And that is that, like, I'll share a story, and shut me off anytime you want. I know I'm going off here. That's a true story for me. It's like, hey, my first day of school, we moved from, so during our Done with Bullying discussions, what we have is we have a bunch of 3 to 5 minute huddle discussions where we ask some questions, right? And the whole idea is that, so with a lot of role playing. And so they're getting experience in a safe environment, right? They're getting a chance to think through this stuff ahead of time. Okay. And so what I want kids to understand at a young age is that, hey man, how do you want to be remembered? How you interact with other kids, they're going to remember. Everybody remembers the school bully when they were a kid. School bully for me was George Morgan. Okay. He was a school bully. He's why I started martial arts. Right. And I can remember him holding the kid up against a chain link fence and punching him in the face. And, I mean, that's clear in my mind. I'll remember that the rest of my life. Right. But so a story that I share is that when I moved from Montana to California in the middle of 5th grade, my first day of school, there was 2 boys. One boy's name was Stephen. Another boy's name was Barry. And Stephen went out of his way to be my friend. He showed me around. He introduced me to people. And Barry, who turned out really not to be a bully, he just barked a lot. He went out of his way. He pushed me around, called me names, etc. And the point I share the kids enough, if Barry came in right now as grown-ups, would I want to beat him up for how he treated me as a kid? I would say no, man. But I feel differently about I do Stephen, who went out of his way to be my friend. And how do you want to be remembered? Right? Just to really, because so that would be, it's not a one-time talk. That's a discussion we will talk about in 3 to 5 minute segments in our program for over the course of like a month. Right?
And that's a very important point, especially as children get martial arts training or some other kind of training, because as that power increases, the temptation or even just the circumstances for accidentally abusing that power starts to appear. So starting with not only some education on how you shouldn't be a bully, but it also kind of helps them wrap their heads around why bullies do what they do. And that, again, like we talked about before, helps them understand how to be a less attractive victim.
Exactly.
That's sharp.
Yeah, and then the other thing a lot about this kind of goes hand in glove with this is the concept of buddying. And what we're trying to do with buddying is we're trying to link the connection between kindness and strength, right? And I know you, as a martial artist, you know a lot of guys that are tough guys, like as do I. And generally speaking, with very few exceptions, the very toughest guys I know are also the most kind and compassionate. Right?
Yeah.
And so what the message is that sometimes we're projected as that tough guy that makes the rules on the playground. That's what I want to be like. Well, actually, as Grandmaster Jun Rhee, a very famous martial arts master, talked about, what do you want? You want a kid that has knowledge in the mind, honesty in the heart, and strength in the body. Right? That's the person that has a strong body, can defend themselves if they have to, but also has a good heart, etc. And so. The next part is a concept we call buddying, right? And with buddying it'll once again, it starts with a conversation. It might be like this: hey, Jason, has anybody ever done anything nice for you? How'd you feel? Who was it, right? Have you ever done anything nice for somebody? What'd you do? How'd you feel? Okay. Have you ever seen anybody do something nice for somebody else? How did you feel? The concept of how rewarding it is to do something nice for somebody and to be on both ends of that. And then kind of call it out and get examples, because what happens is it feels really good to do that. And so we will then really put a strong emphasis on different things that they can do. And then we'll report back during that month, okay, or the next week, all right, who did something, their assignment is you got to do something nice for a classmate or a family member or something like that. And you get all this great stuff that people are doing that's very creative. And how did it make you feel? So we're trying to program that into the memory banks, because once again, just dealing with the bully is only part, that doesn't solve the problem, right? It's got to, you got to be beyond that. And kind of back to what I was talking about, the victim bullying, the pure bully, how you deal with that person is you're so confident and sure of yourself that they decide not to bug you, right?
Just like in adult life, when there's that real adult predator, if you look like you're confident, like you can handle yourself, most people I know who've lived in the city, who've done martial arts, have been in those neighborhoods for one reason or another, have passed the interview where they know they can tell a story about they were on this corner and that person was coming this way and that person changed their mind about victimizing them and passed the interview, as they say.
Exactly.
And our kids have the power to do the same thing. Now, one of the things I really love about the Down with Bullying program is a lot of bullying programs, especially the ones that they teach in school, they're those zero tolerance, violence is never the answer situations. And Rory Miller pointed out that zero tolerance bullying policies are like abstinence only sex education. They're based on what we wish was true, not what is actually true.
100%.
And so the other parts of the program are what to do. First of all, what to do if somebody's bullying our child. What should we tell our kids to do if they are experiencing in-person bullying there at the school? Because it's not grab a roll of quarters and punch the kid till he cries. Yeah. As much fun as that sounds, as many times as it's been shown in the movies, that's not the right answer.
Yeah. So there's the selection, there's the testing, there's the physical assault, right? The predator of any age, they're going to select a victim. Then they're going to test that victim, right? You like what you refer to as the interview, right? And it might be just, what'd you say to me? Or, and they're looking for the response you give them. And that's going to determine where they're going to go to the next level. And of course, what I got to do is I got to teach a child. Some people have it instinctively, but I got to teach my kids, my students to look someone in the eye and speak with confidence, right? Right. And that's a big chunk of it. You think about two dogs meeting for the first time. One is going to become submissive and look away. The other one, well, we want to make sure that we teach eye contact. We teach a powerful physiology. We teach, and kids practice being able to speak. We call it a lion's roar, tigerized lion's roar. Okay, and that is I'm looking him in the eye. I might say, "Hey, Jason, calm down. You're bullying me. I don't appreciate it." But I'm looking at you with confident eyes, and my voice is roaring, okay, so that I'm able to project confidence. But one of the things that we teach, kind of another concept, rules of 5 for kids, and that is use your mind, use your words, use your legs, ask for help, defend yourself. So it looked like this: use your mind. And what is it? This is whole weekly lesson we'll talk about. And what does that mean? Avoiding a confrontation. You realize the guys are there. I'm going to use my mind and go this way, right?
Thinking back to your awareness of the environment and trusting your gut.
Exactly. Use your words. Talk your way out of the situation, right? There's a lot of different things you can do. If you're bullying me, there's all kinds of different strategies that we'll teach. Like one of them is if you make fun of my shirt, I'm like, yeah, I like somebody wearing stupid shirts. Yeah, what the heck, man? Yeah, my mom, like agreeing with them, right? That could be a strategy that can work. You can just have them. It's not always the best choice, but you could. If you're never going to see this person again, if you're at the mall, you just walk away, ignore it. Now, you can't do that. Probably not a good idea if you're going to see this kid every day of school for the rest of the school year. But there's certain circumstances that's a strategy, right? And so we'll teach kids and we'll role play with these kids to do this, right? And so we're actually giving them, use your mind, use your words, use your legs. That means run away, walk away, get away, right? Kick might be a way, right? Ask for help. See, this is a thing. There's a difference between tattling and reporting. If I tell any kid, and I've asked this 1,000 times, hey kid, when you're tattling on someone, what are you trying to do? Trying to get them in trouble. That's not what this is about. There's a difference between this. Reporting is when you're letting somebody know, a person of a teacher's aide, the yard duty person, whatever it is, that there's something either yourself or someone else is potentially being hurt, right? And we want to ask ahead of time. Like we want to teach kids, if you think something's going to happen, you let know, hey, Bobby's been picking on me and I'm worried about what's going to happen in recess. Right. So we kind of give them, and then the fifth one is defend yourself. Right. We'll kind of, and that is, and by the way, when I do school assemblies, I have to leave out the fifth step. We talk about 4 steps because the zero tolerance rule, I get it. By the way, every teacher and every principal, they understand, but they have to follow the policy as well. Okay. There's too much, but the bottom line is what makes all the other stuff work is the fact that I'm not afraid to defend myself if I have to. And let me give you an example of a talk I've given at least 100 times in my career, maybe more. So you come to me and your dad tells me that you're being picked on at school. Okay. First thing I do is I talk to your dad and I go, okay, I'm gonna tell your son Jason that he has a right to defend himself, and there's a good chance he's gonna get kicked out, suspended from school. Are you okay with that? And of course, every mom and dad says absolutely, absolutely. Okay, or in almost every case. And so now I take you and I go, all right, man, what's going on at school? And what do you mean? Well, and sometimes I have to draw it out. Finally, there's George, the school bully, and he's every day he flicks my ears after class and he's threatened to hurt me. And I've asked him a bunch of times. And so I'll actually walk them through the process. Okay, what's going on? And this is what you're going to say. You're going to you step back and say, George, you're picking on me. Stop it. Right. And we'll have him practice that. And then we have imagine that George, still comes at me. And then I tell them, you understand that I'm going to encourage you to defend yourself. Your parents are okay with it. Okay. And I'm okay with this. You have a right to defend yourself. No one has a right to hurt you. And so I'm going to encourage you to defend yourself. Do you understand that? Yes. And then we'll have them hit a palm strike based on their martial arts level, and palm strike a pad and front kick it a bunch of times and yell and holler and scream. And we'll practice this a whole bunch. And you can feel the confidence just rising in the kid. There's kind of a smirk on his face, kind of, sort of. And then inevitably, with one exception, I'll ask the following week, so what's going on, man? How's it going at school? I don't know. They're not picking on me anymore. Mm-hmm. Because they're prepared. And we call it practice the fight so you don't have to. Because of the fact that they're prepared to defend themselves, the predator picks up on that. And all of a sudden, they're not as much fun to harass. It's really an interesting phenomenon. Like I said,
it's one of those real paradoxes of martial arts training, that the better you get at it, the fewer opportunities you have to use it.
100%.
And that seems to be universal across every martial artist or other violence professional that I've ever met.
Yeah, 100%. And it's even if you don't teach any of these strategies, just someone becoming more confident makes them, like I said, now also I'm not as threatened by you. Let's just say that this goes for people of all ages, but let's just say that you are, you're pretty skilled, as I know you are, in martial arts, and you rear end me in traffic, and you got out of the car, and I'm a predator by nature, let's just say. And by the way, I'm with my buddy who really is, I want to impress. And I get out of the car and I walk up to you and I'm mad, you just rear-ended me, and I start going, blah, 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 blah. Now, what's going to determine the fight, this is the interview, right, as you referred to earlier, is if you're in my face hollering back and forth, we know that's not going well, because I got my buddy here and I have to look good in front of him, and there's gonna be a fight for sure. The flip side is if you come off too passive, that just stokes the flames. I'm thinking, all right, man. But so what you got to be able to do is you got to be able to step back and say, hey, buddy, calm down. The insurance will take care of it. We don't have to do this. But with your eyes, you're saying, I'm good to go, man. I'm good to go. I'm ready. And so it's that fine balance, right? Well, it's the same thing on the kids on the playground, right? As soon as they sense that we're ready to defend ourselves, then it doesn't guarantee you're not going to get a confrontation. But like I said, it's incredibly effective. But it's the fact that it's real. They really are prepared to defend themselves.
That sense of the only person here who wants to fight less than me is you, right?
Exactly.
Because of what's going to happen. And so that sense of confidence, again, as we're talking about, building up that confidence in a lot of ways, that relaxed sense of awareness, that relaxed state of readiness, sends the bullies scampering elsewhere.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
And like you mentioned, that the fifth step about being willing to defend yourself, being prepared to defend yourself, having permission to defend yourself, unfortunately, the other 4 steps lose a lot of their power without the implicit threat of step 5.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's what makes self-defense training, martial arts training is so unique. You know, we know that, and we're both, you know, kind of a little biased, right? But I've seen it through. Hey, man, there's other sports that are awesome for kids that they can build confidence and self-discipline and focus and all that stuff, right? But what makes martial arts unique to me is two things. Number one is that inherent in martial arts training is this: we're teaching kids dangerous stuff. Therefore, I'm obligated as an instructor to teach kids to have self-control and to be courteous and respectful, to swing the pendulum to the other side, right? Like, for example, your soccer teacher never has to say, your soccer coach never has to say, don't misuse your soccer on anyone. That's not, it's a non-issue, right? But because we're teaching kids violence, we have to then, teach them how to control it and when to use it. That's number one. Number two is that now, if you're in my face and I really am confident, you want to fight with me and I'm trying to talk my way out of it, and I don't know what I'm doing, inside I'm going, oh my goodness, I have no idea what to do here. I'm scared to death. I hope I don't get hurt. If I have some training, I still might be a little afraid. Goodness gracious, I don't want to have to fight if I don't have to, man. This is kind of scary, but if he takes one step further, I'm going to palm strike him in the nose as hard as I friggin' can. Now everything changes because of that. You know, I no longer give off the same vibe as I did before. You know, a predator can smell fear, and when you're not, when you're prepared, even if you're, you know, a little concerned, it's a whole different ballgame. So you're absolutely true. You have to be able to, as Teddy Roosevelt said, walk softly and care, but you have to have the big stick. You know, you have to be, in my opinion, be able to defend yourself if you had to.
Another thing I do like about the program is that confidence. And you bring in, again, to the buddying at the end, where there's other kids in the school who they don't have that confidence for whatever reason. Maybe they're smaller, maybe they're younger, maybe they're just not as confident yet. They're still growing into themselves. By encouraging somebody who does have that confidence because of that martial arts training or other training to just kind of be nearby.
Yeah. Well, that's the fourth component of our program, is what to do if other people are being bullied. And we will do like all kinds of role playing with them. Like, for example, and we've done this in school assemblies countless times, and I'll call some kids out and I'll have one guy play the part of the victim and somebody else play the part of the bully. And first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna show them what not to do, okay? And we'll keep it really light. When we're doing these, it's never like, if a kid's wearing glasses, we're never gonna make fun of glasses. It's gonna be something imaginary. You know, in other words, make fun of their purple tie or their funny hat that they're not wearing, you know, something so we can kind of make it light. And it's just, but, you know, I'm going to say, look at that funny hat Jason's wearing. Isn't that the dumbest thing possible? That's what I have the kids saying. And then I'll walk up. Phase one is I'll walk up and I'll join in and I'll start making fun of your hat as well. And then we'll stop, time out. All right, kids, what was I just doing? And the kids know I was joining in. Is that the right thing to do? No, it's not. That would be one example of what not to do. Okay, here's another thing not to do. And the next time they do the same thing, and I just stare and I watch, right? And we'll say, time out, what are I doing there? You were watching. Yes, you see, a bully wants an audience. It's like they're doing a play. They want people to watch them, okay? The next one, I'll have them do the same thing, and I'll pretend like I'm not noticing. What was I doing there? Is I ignoring? Is that a good idea? No. Okay, so we'll give them things not to do. Now, what can you do? First thing you don't want to do is you don't want to have a kid feel like they're obligated to step into a potentially violent situation, you know, like, oh, you know, maybe the bully's really big. There's three guys picking on one, and man, if I get involved, I could get hurt. We don't, you know, it depends on where you are on the social status and the size status on the playground, but there's always something you can do. So the first one we'll teach is what's called leave and report, where what you do is you see that's going on and you'll walk over and we'll have someone play the part of a yard duty attendant and grab some help. Another one is what's called get there first. And get there first refers to, you see trouble, you see these guys are getting ready to pick on Bobby, you go up to Bobby and say, hey, Bobby, come with me, let's go somewhere else, right? So we'll role play on that. The next one is called distract and redirect. So I'll walk in and I'll walk in and I'll say, hey, to the bully, hey, you're really good at basketball. Can you teach me sometime? Hey, Bobby, come with me. And I just kind of walk in and pretend like I don't know what the situation is going on. And the fourth is called step in and take charge. And that's where if I am at least on the same level as the predator, as the bully, I can walk in if I'm feeling more confident, say, Jason, stop it. You're bullying Bobby. I'd appreciate if you stopped. Bobby, come with me. And so now what we're doing is we're actually giving people tools they can use and not just a one size fits all. And like I said, people, we all learn from experience. We just usually don't set kids up for success because we give them, they're learning on the fly versus ahead of time.
And that's so, like so many other forms of martial arts training, the superpower we have as martial artists is we think about what to do in bad situations more than most people. And allowing our kids to think about those things in a way that's not scary, in a way that gives them options, I think it gives a lot of power. Now, I do have to ask, because that all of this is physical bullying in place in school, but cyberbullying is on the rise, and there's been some research that says it's even more damaging because when we were kids, even if we were just having a really bad bullying day, we could go home, play video games, watch TV, get a hug from our dad, hang out with our big brother, and have a reprieve from it for the hours we're not at school. But now, that's gone. So do you have any advice for parents, advice for kids if cyberbullying is happening?
Yeah, it's a really hard one. It's a whole nother level. So the first thing I would go, kind of following the same rules, is I would address why people do it. The same principles. I would educate kids. Why do kids do this, right? What's the reason behind it? That would be step number one again. And it's an ongoing dialogue, and why you don't want to do that. Kind of the same steps. How do you feel about that person that publicly humiliated? Has it ever happened to you? You realize that someone else is going to remember you, and not for the right reasons, for a really long time. Is that something that you want to have happen, right? I would also go along the lines of the concept of buddying. Once again, what can you do is you can personal message someone that you know is having a hard time, and you can say, hey, I understand that you must be going through a challenging time. I think you're a good person, etc. So in other words, the same steps can be applied. But one of the things that I think is really important is that this is where getting people involved sooner, I think, is better. Like the kids should know that if they're being bullied online, they should be able to speak to their parent or their teacher to show. And bottom line is that there it is. It's in plain sight. You know what I'm saying? It's easier to actually, I think, measure and see than the live stuff that happened, earlier today and no one was around to witness it. And so this is where I think that it's more important that the parents step in and get more involved. The other thing is that we try, and this is a whole other issue, but we try to have our kids realize there's life beyond what's on social media. I think it's gonna, of course, I don't have to tell you, it can be really detrimental for people to spend too much time on those platforms.
Wow. Now, as a parent, we've talked a lot about what our kids can do. But in your experience, if my son comes home, your daughter comes home, and they've experienced bullying, and the program's working, maybe it's working to prevent them from getting beaten up, but maybe there's still that social pressure, or they're experiencing cyberbullying, what are some of the things we should say? What are some of the things we shouldn't say to support our kids in making this program work for them?
So the first thing is it's really important that your child feel comfortable in talking to you, and that you acknowledge their feelings, right? You might go, suck it up, kid. It's not a big deal. He only said this. It's a big deal to your child. And if you want them to continue to interact with you, you've got to be able to let them know, hey, you can talk to me about anything. So the first step is just to listen. That's most important. Listen with empathy, right? You may not agree, right? Or it may seem really trivial or not a big deal to you, but it is to them. So therefore it should be a big deal to you. So I think that's the first step, right? And then the second thing, and this is a hard part because, logical people, when it comes to their kids, are no longer logical. You know what I'm saying? We are fiercely protective of our family, right? That's just, if it wasn't the case, we wouldn't be alive as a species, right? And so we've got to be able to take a breath, and as a parent, not speak out of a negative emotion. You know what I'm talking about? Not pick up the phone and chew out the parent of the other kid or chew out it's like, take a second, take yourself a timeout, right? Because that'll just cause insult to injury.
I remember very recently last year, my oldest was having an issue with bullying, and a particularly nasty thing happened. And I was there with my wife after bedtime. My wife just looks at me and says, "Is it bad that I want to beat up an 8-year-old?" Right?
It's
But I
natural to
think we
want
all
to beat
feel
up an
that way.
8-year-old.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's natural. Like I've said, instructor colleges when we're working with teachers, it's natural to want to pick a kid up and go, pay attention. But you just can't do it, right? It's natural to want to. You just can't take action on those, on those resources. So that's the next thing, and then here's the deal. I'm going to do a quick experiment with you, okay? And I want you to respond really quickly. Let's imagine we're both in the same room. Don't overthink this. You ready? Respond. Okay. Hands, you step back, hands go up, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Respond. All right. Now put your guard up to me in an aggressive fashion.
Aggressive.
Yeah. Okay. Now let me tell you just what just happened, okay, and where this is going. So the first thing that I did is I came at you aggressively, okay, and the response I'll always get is one of two. The one you did is whoa, calm down, or you might get someone to put their guard back up, okay. That's human nature. You're right, human nature, right? Neither one of those is going to get the best response out of you, the most, the best response. The second thing that I did is my hand went out and your guard went out. Your hand went out. Okay, both of those are kind of responsive. The third one, I had you put your guard up, and I put my hand out. And what did you do? You thought for a minute, and then you put your hand out. So here's the key: can I go into a room where people have their guard up, so to speak? How am I responding? Am I responding by putting my guard up as well, or can I put my hand out? Does that make any sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, so the key thing is when you're as a parent of a child that is being bullied, whoever it is that you're going to talk to, the school administrators, the parent of the bully, don't go in with your guard up, because all you're going to get is a war, right? Because that parent is fiercely defensive of their child. You'll go in with your hand out, trying to be calm and solution oriented, and more often than not, not always, more often than not, that's the response that you're going to get. But if you go in there guns blazing, it's just going to be a battle, because someone calls me out of the blue and says, "Your son," blah, 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 blah. I'm going, wait a minute, this is my son. My guard's going to go back up. So that would be the general guideline that I think that I would give a parent whose child is being bullied.
So just to listen to them, and then to approach the problem looking for solutions. Take whatever time you need to not come in all hot, but to approach it calmly and to move forward.
Exactly.
That makes good sense.
Yeah.
So Dave, you had also mentioned that you have a second program that uses the same principles, only for older people, especially older daughters, maybe entering college, that you call Live Safe Training. And I want to take a moment to talk about that. It feels a little bit minimizing to refer to the kind of crime that sometimes happens to women on college campuses as bullying, but the concepts are the same. These are still predators finding someone they think is weak. So could you talk a little bit about Live Safe
Absolutely.
Training?
A lot of the stuff we've already kind of talked about. It isn't just, we designed it originally because I had one of my students' daughter was going away to college, and this is going back 30 years. And he goes, "Man, I'm really worried. What can you tell her?" And it got me thinking. That's it. But these concepts are universal. They apply to 45-year-old men and 32-year-old women. It doesn't matter, right? And they have to do with, once again, first and foremost, is getting people to understand that there is danger in the world. Okay. However, and you probably are aware of this, if you were to analyze, when the world was the most dangerous, if you ask people, and I do it all the time when I'm doing self-defense clinics, is the world now more dangerous than it has been in the past? Hands go up. Oh yeah, it's worse than ever. Actually, it's not. It's not. If you were to, and this is based on statistics of how many violent deaths per 100,000 people in the world. And this is actually one of the safest times there's ever been to live when it comes to that as a statistic, right? And so this is important to understand, because if people walk around fearful of everything, it's going to really, as Gavin de Becker says, true fear is a gift, unwarranted fear is a curse, right? Know the difference. And if you're afraid of everything, then you won't know the difference between real danger and perceived danger, because you're afraid of everything. It's like being a good defensive driver. The first thing you want to do is, you're not as paranoid about getting in an accident, right? Like this, you're not driving like this, because what do you happen? If you're driving like this, you're worried about someone rearing it, boom, you're not paying. Your reactions can't work for you, right? The flip side is if you're a reckless driver, that's going to increase the odds of you getting in an accident as well. So living our life, the first thing is that being neither paranoid nor naive, being careful, okay? So if you think there's a bad guy waiting around every corner for you and you live your life that, first off, it's no fun. Number two, you're gonna be afraid of everything and your instincts aren't gonna work right for you. If you think there's never gonna be a bad guy waiting around the corner for you, you're mistaken, because there could be. So be aware, but not on guard. You know, first step again is to create safe habits. So analyze your day from dawn to dusk. Think about the safe habits you have in place. For example, how many times have I in my life went to get money out of the ATM at a part of town where I probably shouldn't have done it, at a time of day that I probably shouldn't have done it? Mm-hmm. It's dark and, you know, I don't know this area. Probably not good. Well, okay, every now and then that might happen, but on a regular basis, that's a habit I can cure very simply. How many times have I gotten gas later on at night in an area I wasn't concerned about because I let my gas tank get too low versus, you know, getting it ahead of time? So those are safe habits. How many times have I thought, oh, did I lock the door? You know, so locking the door, put your seatbelt on, you know, look both ways before you cross the street. All those things we already know to do. If you do that, chances are, you know, most of us are not going to die in a back alley knife fight. The world's a pretty safe place if you do that. Okay. And now I'm not making a light of people, the things that have happened to people, because they certainly happen, but that's the starting point. That's going to eliminate 90% of the threat right there. And the second step is once again, is to be aware but not on guard, is to teach people to be alert and aware and confident. And that it's, so we'll have people practice walking. You know, we'll talk about all kinds of scenario-based stuff, like for example, one of the strategies for a predator is if I'm a predator, I'm looking to carjack someone, or what I'm going to do is, often a strategy is I'm going to sit in a parking lot of a store, and I'm not going to attack people when they're getting out of their car. I'm attacking when they're getting back in the car, right? And so like little things like when you're walking from the store to the car, put your phone down. Okay, have your keys already out. Of course, a lot of people with key fobs, they don't need them, but you get the idea, right? And if you're going to check, don't check your phone until you get in your car, drive around the corner, and then you can stop. But that's when stuff happens. It's when someone comes back to the car, right? So some tactical things like that we will cover. And then, of course, you trust your intuition. We're talking about times in your life, and we'll give examples of when people didn't trust their intuition, it worked against them, okay? Or when they did and it worked for them. And then there's a whole segment on projecting your voice, how to stand in a position that projects confidence, some basic striking skills, etc. And so that's kind of the gist of the program. And it's everything. We teach some real basic actual striking skills, but that's just a small part of it. It's all the avoidance stuff that is most important when it comes to this. Kind of like you were talking about the gun defense, right? It's like great to know 23 gun defenses, but it's way better just not to be wherever the gun might be.
Yeah, one of the people I worked with a few years back used to say, we were talking, all of us we've been in martial arts for a long time, that if you're using your physical self-defense skills, you have screwed up so many times up to that. Mm-hmm. And, you know, in that room full of martial artists who've been at it for a while, it's appropriate to say it that way and put it in those terms. But as you say, if you're using physical self-defense, most of the time you could have avoided having to use physical self-defense just through your awareness, through your projection of confidence, through that relaxed state of alertness, through planning your day, all of those details that you discussed there.
Yeah, you know, my personal philosophy, I love to train, right? But I'm 100% against fighting. I have no interest in fighting. And what that allows me to be is 100% for it if I have to defend myself. There's never going to be a gray area. There's never going to be, should I fight or not? Because if I have that option, I'm not going to fight, right? Yeah. You know, a self-defense situation is not, what'd you say to me? Let's go out in the back parking lot. That's not self-defense, that's a fight. A self-defense is an ambush, right? I wasn't paying attention. All of a sudden someone's, you know, hurting me. Now I'm all in. But when you're, I had an incident happen to me when I was about 19 years old, and it, you know, involved a girl and a guy harassing my girlfriend. And next thing you know, I'm picking a fight with a guy, or not picking a fight, but I end up getting in a fight with a guy I probably shouldn't have. And I beat him up, I guess, but it was on bottom line is I almost got arrested for it. And I didn't fight really hard, so I got hurt in the process because I wasn't fully committed to it, right? And then I never forgot that. It was dumbest thing, one of the dumbest things. I've done a lot of dumb things. One of the dumbest things I ever did. It was peer pressure. I let some friends talk me into it. And I got, man, I never want to have that happen. If I'm ever going to get a fight again, I am all in, or I'm not bothering. You know, that allows you to be able to walk away from a lot of stuff. You know what I'm saying? All of a sudden you find a way to talk your way out of it, because who cares? Call me what you want. I'm not going to, you know, that doesn't matter to me, right? And so that allows you to avoid a lot of stuff when you decide you're not going to get in a fight.
I think that gets back to the confidence, because of course, when people are being bullied, often they don't have the confidence to just laugh it off, to just hear the insults and not respond. Or like you were pointing out earlier, someone, hey, that's a stupid shirt. Do you read? Going, yeah, it's kind of a dumb shirt. And, you know, my aunt got it for me, whatever, right? That when you don't have that confidence, it's harder to use those techniques. Or kind of like the situation you were at before. You were talking about being 19, somebody's picking on your girlfriend on your date, saying something. You have to get up and thump the chest, not because you're confident and tough, because you're 19 and you're not confident enough yet. You know, and so building that confidence, it all starts with that, it seems.
And we all have to, you know, every now and then do a checkup, right? I mean, we're not all. I was in a wedding last summer, and there was a guy, this big guy, that was there, and that, you know, he was letting me know what a badass he is, because he knew I was a martial artist, and how basically what he was saying, I'm a lot bigger than you, I could kick your ass. He basically was saying that. And what you know, it was a little trivial thing. And of course, you know, I got an ego just like everyone else. And I'm like, oh, you know, I mean, I had to go, wait a minute, time out. This guy's talking from a position of insecurity. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I'm not gonna, you know, and I laughed it off, and I joked, and I had a couple guys say, man, you really handled that very calmly. Inside, I was livid, right? Yeah. You know, but it was like I understand where he was coming from. And then also I was not threatened by him. You know what I'm saying? It's like I was not worried about my ability. Had I had to stand up and mix it up with him, I wasn't threatened by that. And that allowed me to take a breath and just kind of laugh it off and let it go.
And that's right back into the steps of the Done with Bullying program, which you used effectively at a wedding. You know, I think we all have the shoulder devil, right? The ones that's, you should just kick his ass. You should, but we just ignore that because we have that confidence. Yep. Now, before we wrap up, though, Dave, you've delivered hundreds of speeches in multiple countries, delivered thousands of classes. What do you wish people asked you about more when you have a chance, when you have an audience?
You know, I am amazed at the disconnect. This has nothing to do really with bullying or, you know, but in general, the disconnect really smart people have with their level of success and happiness and how they treat their body. How many really smart people do I know, really good people, really ethical people, hardworking, that treat their body like crap, you know, that don't eat like they should, or even remotely like they should, don't get enough rest, abuse their, you know, and on and on and on. And it's like it all starts with like one of our mastery mindsets. I have a series of martial arts mastery mindsets that I try to live by as part of our program. The very first one is I take great care of myself because the world needs me at my best. And that you really owe it to your community, to your family, to yourself, to, you know, people say, I don't have time to eat right, or, you know, I'm taking care of my kids now. Well, bottom line is, I don't know about you, but I'm a better father. You know, I'm a better husband. I'm a better boss. I'm a better friend. I'm a better instructor when I'm feeling good about myself, right? And that there's it's simple, but it's not easy. There's so many simple things you can do to really focus on getting yourself in the right mindset, both physically, mentally, emotionally, etc., to where, you know, you're going to maximize the odds of you having a good day, and which is going to have a major ripple effect on not only you going to be more fun to be around, but your family's going to benefit from it, your community, your coworkers, etc. So it's kind of like I had a friend of mine that was eating. I was doing a seminar at a school, and this is a guy that's, you know, 15 years my younger, and not that matters, but you know, he's talking about how good he was when he was 20. and that was a long time ago, and he probably can't do much anymore. And part of it is because he's just let himself go to a certain degree. And he says, man, I don't worry about that stuff. I'm gonna enjoy every day. I'm gonna, and I'm going, well, you don't I was thinking to myself, you're not really looking like you're enjoying every day. In other words, you don't pay the price for taking care of yourself. You reap the benefits, right? And so that would be the message that I feel like so many people just forget to put themselves first. And I don't mean that in a selfish way, because it's really the most selfless thing you can do for your family, by learning how to deal with stress, by eating relatively clean, by getting enough rest, by exercising, by being careful as to, what are you reading? What podcasts are you listening to? All those things are going to kind of help shape how you interact and how you help the world.
It's almost like the thing with in an airplane, when the mask comes down, you're supposed 100%. To put on your own mask, not your kid. Because if you're not in a position to help your kids, and as parents, I think, as you say, it's very tempting that if something's got to go, we're going to skip our jog because our kid needs a little more help with their homework. We're going to not get enough sleep because we were waited until our kids were in bed before we did some work or whatnot. We're going to abuse ourselves thinking that we're helping our kids. But as you say, we're not helping our kids if we're not healthy and happy and available and resourceful.
And here's the deal. All you have to do is position your challenges someone will say, well, I just don't have time to exercise. What do you want me to give up? I mean, what do you want me to do? Like, I don't have time. You see, one or the other. Well, guess what? Do you have 10 seconds now? Do 10 squats. Do that every hour for 10 hours, and you got some exercise. There's always a way. So the key thing for people, it's not a compromise. It's asking yourself, okay, how can I stay healthier, become healthier, even with my busy schedule, and not neglect my kids? In other words, you just have to find the right question. Does that make sense? And if you find the right question, then the solution will fix itself, right? Then you can, I have this busy schedule and it's going to continue to be busy, but I need to eat better. Well, okay, on Sunday evenings, I can pack lunches for the whole week. I can pack healthy lunches for the whole week. I know what I can do at break at work. Instead of pulling up YouTube, I can walk around the office for 10 minutes. I could do that. In other words, if you ask yourself the right question, the answers will appear to you. And so that would be my input.
No, thank you. That's exactly the kind of thing that I'm hoping to hear. So, Dave, again, thank you so much for coming on today. I really appreciate you sharing your wisdom with us. And viewers, we will have links to all of the programs Dave talked about today in the show notes. And thank everybody for watching. And thank you again, Dave. I really appreciate you coming on today.
My pleasure. Bye-bye.
Thanks for watching today. If you loved what you saw, please do hit the subscribe button and the like button. Tell your friends. Click on those links above to go to the full version of this video or another of our shorter synopses. Thanks again. Hope to see you soon.